What if I told you Captain Jack Sparrow might actually sail again? Yep, after all the drama, the courtroom chaos, and Disney's long silence, whispers are swirling once more. Fans who've stayed loyal through the storm might finally have a reason to hope. For many of us, Jack Sparrow isn't just a character. He's a cinematic icon, the swaggering, rum-loving pirate with a heart of gold and a mind full of schemes. Johnny Depp brought him to life in a way that's hard to replicate, blending humor, unpredictability, and depth into a performance that redefined what a pirate could be on screen. If you've ever found yourself asking, will Johnny Depp come back to Pirates of the Caribbean? You're not alone. Millions of fans across the globe have asked the same question. Since his very public and messy legal battle with ex-wife Amber Heard, the possibility of Johnny returning to the role that made him a household name has been up in the air. Some believed the door had been permanently closed, while others clung to the idea that perhaps, just maybe, the tides would turn. And now, something unexpected has stirred the waters, a small but significant comment from Orlando Bloom, Depp's longtime co-star in the franchise. Yes, Will Turner himself may have just given us the biggest clue yet. Orlando Bloom, while promoting his recent projects, was asked in an interview about the future of Pirates of the Caribbean. Most actors, when faced with these kinds of questions, usually play it safe. They deflect, say it's not up to them, or dodge the topic entirely. But not Orlando. With a knowing smile, he said, "I'd love to sail with Johnny again. There's still magic there." That's it. One sentence. But in the world of Hollywood, where every word is measured and every quote is analyzed, this one packed a punch. Fans immediately began dissecting it. Why now? Why say it at all? Could it be that something is happening behind the scenes? Orlando and Johnny have shared the screen for years, building a chemistry that helped anchor the franchise. Will Turner and Jack Sparrow had a dynamic that was both comedic and heartfelt. It's hard to imagine that kind of bond being faked. So for Orlando to express interest in returning alongside Johnny suggests not just nostalgia, but hope. And perhaps, a whisper of insider knowledge. Because let's be honest, actors know more than they say, and sometimes, a small slip can reveal a bigger picture. Meanwhile, Disney's behavior has been curious. Officially, they've said very little. No definitive announcements, no confirmations. But also, and this is key, no denials. They've remained strategically silent, even as fans have continued to petition for Depp's return. That silence, in Hollywood, can often be more meaningful than words. It's a signal that something is being negotiated, discussed, or at the very least, reconsidered. Remember, back in 2020, it was widely reported that Disney had dropped Depp from the franchise. That decision was met with massive backlash from fans, many of whom felt the studio was too quick to cut ties during the height of his legal troubles. At the time, the world was deeply divided over the allegations between Depp and Heard. But as more evidence came to light, public opinion began to shift. Depp's testimony, his emotional vulnerability, and his consistent claims of being a victim himself caused many people to reevaluate the narrative. Then came the turning point, his legal victory in 2022. Though the case was complex and the media coverage overwhelming, the general consensus afterward seemed to favor Depp. He was seen not just as a victim of personal trauma, but also as a casualty of cancel culture. And this narrative, of the wrongly accused star who fought back and reclaimed his dignity, resonated deeply with fans and Hollywood insiders alike. Since then, Depp has made cautious steps back into the public eye. His appearance at the Cannes Film Festival in 2023 was a major moment. He received a standing ovation that lasted several minutes, an emotional scene that brought him to tears. It wasn't just a celebration of his latest film. It felt like a public apology, a symbolic welcome back from the industry. And if there's one thing Hollywood loves, it's a comeback story. Hollywood has always had room for redemption arcs. Look at Robert Downey Jr., who went from being a tabloid regular to the face of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Or Brendan Fraser, who after years away from the spotlight due to health and personal issues, made a triumphant return with The Whale and won an Academy Award. These stories prove that with time, the right role, and enough public support, even the most complicated stars can find their way back. Johnny Depp fits this mold perfectly. He's always been a bit of an outsider in Hollywood. A rebel, an artist, a performer who chose strange and wonderful roles over easy box office wins. But Jack Sparrow was the exception, the role that turned him into a global superstar while still allowing him to be weird and wonderful. Losing that character was a blow not just to Depp, but to millions of fans who grew up quoting his lines and imitating his walk. The financial stakes for Disney are enormous. The Pirates of the Caribbean franchise has raked in over $4.5 billion worldwide. That's the kind of money you don't walk away from easily. But the last installment, Dead Men Tell No Tales, received mixed reviews. While it performed well financially, critics and fans alike noted that something was missing. Many pointed to the fact that Jack Sparrow, though present, felt like a shadow of his former self, as though Depp was already being pushed out creatively. The film lacked the spark of earlier entries, and despite attempts to bring in new characters, none were able to fill the void left by Sparrow's diminished role. In recent years, Disney reportedly explored multiple directions for a reboot. At one point, Birds of Prey writer Christina Hodson was attached to pen a female-led pirate spin-off, rumored to star Margot Robbie. That project, however, seems to have stalled. Margot herself confirmed in an interview that Disney had no interest in moving forward with it. So the reboot ship? Still docked. And in that vacuum, speculation about Depp's return has only grown louder. Now here's where things get really interesting. A working title has reportedly been circulating for Pirate 6, A Day at the Edge of the World. For casual viewers, that might not mean much. But die-hard fans will recognize it as a phrase Depp once used to describe Jack Sparrow's personal limbo, a place between life and death, between myth and reality. If Disney is seriously considering that title, it could be a sign that they're not just continuing the story, they're resurrecting it. And who better to guide that resurrection than Captain Jack himself? Of course, bringing Depp back won't be easy. There are still political and financial hurdles. The actor reportedly felt betrayed by Disney, and he made that very clear during the trial. His now infamous line about refusing to return for $100 million and 1,000,000 alpacas wasn't just a joke. It was a statement. But time heals, and money talks. And if Disney can find a way to show that they value him again, on his terms, then maybe, just maybe, there's a path forward. There are whispers from inside the industry suggesting that Disney has quietly reached out. These aren't just idle rumors bouncing around fan forums, some of them are coming from individuals who've worked on or near the Pirates franchise before, people who know how these corporate gears turn. The speculation is that Disney is feeling the pressure, not just from fans, but internally as well. Executives are said to be exploring ways to make it right with Johnny Depp, though it's not as simple as picking up the phone and offering a contract. No, this situation is far more nuanced. There's pride involved. There's image management. There's the delicate dance of not appearing to capitulate, while still admitting, in actions if not words, that they misjudged the public sentiment when they so swiftly distanced themselves from Depp in the heat of his legal turmoil with Amber Heard. You have to consider the scale of the backlash Disney faced when they dropped Depp from the franchise. Fans were outraged. Online petitions demanding his reinstatement garnered millions of signatures. Social media campaigns trended for days. Disney isn't oblivious, they see these movements, they study these metrics. And they know that the Pirates franchise without Jack Sparrow is like Star Wars without the Force, it might function, but it won't resonate in the same way. Jack Sparrow isn't just a character, he's the pulse of the entire series. His unpredictable swagger, his slurred but sharp wit, his layered charm, it's the engine that keeps the ship sailing. And if Disney really is reaching out behind the scenes, you better believe they're doing it cautiously. They're likely not sliding a contract across a table just yet. They're probably testing the waters. Sending quiet feelers through Depp's reps, engaging in abstract conversations about possibilities, and fan interest, and creative direction. That's how these things start, slowly, ambiguously, until one side blinks and takes a definitive step. If they are trying to re-establish ties with Depp, it's likely they're also trying to find a way to shift the narrative. To reframe their stance not as backpedaling, but as a meaningful reconciliation. That's why Orlando Bloom's comment is so interesting, and potentially revealing. In an industry where silence often speaks volumes, any public sentiment, especially from someone who's directly tied to the franchise, is rarely accidental. When Bloom said, "I'd love to sail with Johnny again," there's still magic there. He wasn't just reminiscing. He was sending a signal, to the studio, to the fans, and perhaps even to Depp himself. It was diplomatic, yes, but it was also loaded with possibility. It was permission to dream again. Bloom could have easily brushed off the question, or said something vague like, "We'll see what happens," but he chose to lean into the idea. That choice is telling. Remember, actors like Bloom, who have been a part of major franchises, are often kept in the loop in ways the public is not. Even if they're not directly involved in negotiations, they're connected to people who are. They have agents, managers, and long-standing industry relationships. If the idea of Depp's return were totally off the table, you'd expect Bloom to be more reserved. Instead, he gave the comment a positive spin. That suggests he knows more than he's letting on, or at least senses that a conversation is happening. Let's not overlook how calculated studios like Disney can be. This isn't a company that moves impulsively. Every public gesture, every statement, is measured. So if Orlando Bloom, a known face of the franchise, makes a hopeful statement about sailing with Johnny again, it could very well be part of a soft launch strategy. Disney might be gauging the reaction. Seeing how the public responds. It's a way of dipping their toes into the water without diving in, letting a trusted cast member test the climate on their behalf. And based on the way fans reacted, with overwhelming positivity, the signal is loud and clear: the audience wants Johnny back. There's also an unspoken truth in Hollywood: actors talk. They talk during press tours, at private parties, in trailers, on set. They exchange information, especially when it concerns a project they've poured their heart into. It would be naive to think Orlando Bloom hasn't had a conversation with Johnny Depp in recent years, or with people close to him. These aren't isolated islands, they're part of the same archipelago. If Bloom feels confident enough to make a public statement, it likely means he's picking up real signals from within the studio machine. And that's huge. Because in Hollywood, no one wants to be the first to speak out unless they're reasonably sure they're on the right side of the tide. It's also important to remember how Disney operates when trying to patch things up. They rarely admit mistakes outright, but they do make calculated decisions to correct course. We've seen it before. Actors who were once blacklisted from major projects suddenly reappearing under the right circumstances. They use nostalgia, reboots, and sequels as vehicles for redemption, not just for the characters, but for the relationships behind the scenes. If they are indeed trying to repair the rift with Depp, they'll want it to look like a natural evolution, not a corporate U-turn. That's where someone like Bloom becomes incredibly useful. He acts as a bridge, a familiar, friendly face who can float the idea without the baggage of legal battles or past press controversies. In the grander scheme, Orlando's words may seem small, just a single sentence. But in the context of Hollywood, that sentence could be a signal flare. It invites speculation, encourages hope, and, perhaps most critically, opens a door that had long seemed shut. Whether it's part of an intentional Disney strategy or a genuine expression of loyalty and belief in Depp's value, the effect is the same. The tide is shifting. What was once unthinkable now feels plausible. And if there's even a spark of truth to the idea that Disney is reaching out, then Orlando Bloom's comment could be the first puff of smoke before the fire. The fan base, too, has played a major role in keeping this hope alive. From viral petitions to endless social media campaigns, the demand for Depp's return has never really died down. If anything, it's grown stronger over time. Disney, ever mindful of its audience, knows this. And in an era where public opinion can shape studio decisions, just look at how Sonic the Hedgehog got redesigned. Ignoring that level of support would be foolish. So what happens now? If the pieces are being set, Orlando's comment, the mysterious title, Disney's silence, then the next few months could be crucial. It's entirely possible that Pirates 6 will be the biggest cinematic comeback in years. Not just another sequel, but a redemption arc for its lead star. The kind of full-circle moment that reminds everyone why they fell in love with the story in the first place. And so, I ask again, do you believe Johnny Depp will return as Captain Jack Sparrow? Is Disney finally ready to hoist the sails and invite him back aboard? Or are we simply reading too much into a smile and a sentence? I want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments below, your hopes, your theories, even your doubts. And if you've enjoyed this deep dive into all things pirates, don't stop here. Check out our next video, Top 5 Signs Disney is Secretly Planning Johnny Depp's Return. We break down even more clues you might have missed, including leaked concept art and studio rumors. If you're rooting for Depp's epic return, give this video a like, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss another update from the 7 Seas of Hollywood. There's more to this story, and you won't want to miss what's next. Until next time, mates. Keep your compass steady, trust the tide, and remember, not all treasure is silver and gold.